we still have to squeeze ourselves into those boxes that are expected by everyone else.
How awesome is that?
Yeah.
Creativity is that one thing you can't force.
Taking a shower,
I don't have weekly meetings with Steve Jobs.
the word slipped my mind. Anyway,
We're living through a crazy time,
congratulations on your excellent achievement and promotion.
Yeah.
And LinkedIn cringe.
Oh,
In France is ChatGPT, and it also means like I farted basically.
hello everyone. Great to see you in another episode of Hi Hi Podcast. Just as a quick reminder, Hi Hi is an AI agent for recruiters that helps you transcribe interviews and pre-fill scorecards. And we also run a tiny group of amazing product managers and designers acting as a boutique recruitment agency. So if anyone is looking for a great designer or product manager, we know how to find them. And today we're joined by an amazing guest, Enzo Avigo. We used to work together at Intercom, where he was a product manager. He was also product manager at Zalando and N26. And currently he's running June, a B2B SaaS that's about customer analytics. The folks were into YC. They are in their, fourth year, doing great. I just recently saw a post that you broke even and you're now profitable. So Enzo, it's amazing to have you here.
Thanks for having me, guys. Really excited to be here. Great to see you, Costeo, again after all these years. Time flies.
Yeah. By the way, like whenever I introduce guests, I realize sometimes I can miss something, some important detail, and I've noticed that a few hosts I would just ask a person like, "Can you just introduce yourself?" and basically like talk to everyone like, "Who are you? What it is you do?" So can I just ask like, do you want to add anything to the intro?
No, I think that's a good summary. I'm a product guy at Art, and I started a business a couple of years ago out of a problem that I had in my previous experiences as a product person, and the journey has been very surprising. I think what I learned is that being a PM is probably not enough to start a business, and there was a lot of bias from my previous experiences, but it was definitely like very very fruitful and learned a lot, and yeah, was able to apply a lot of things, I guess.
And that's, by the way, an amazing topic also to talk about, because we also, I think, coming from a product background, had to learn, I don't know, how to do marketing, how to do sales, how it all runs. But I wanted to start maybe on a similar-ish topic, and that's LinkedIn. And I think to me, and so you are also a LinkedIn influencer. Or at least like in my feed, I can see your posts pretty often. I can see that you got more than 60K followers recently. So can you just tell a little bit about like how and why are you doing it? Like how have you become an influencer?
Oh, guys, sorry, answer. I wanted to add that sometimes when I struggle with my LinkedIn posts and I ask Costa to send me like best practices, best examples from LinkedIn, he sends me your posts. So now I'm
Nice.
following, and it's really, really cool.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I'm stealing a lot from others, to be honest. I think it's everyone is watching each other's, and it's like, like anything else. And but it's good to know that it's useful for some people, and hopefully the content is helpful too.
We like it. We like it.
That's
But,
very
by the way, yeah, and by the way, we have like this. We try to do this podcast as a bit of a discussion, so we'll be interrupting you a lot. It's not an interview, and I hope it's okay with you. So we're going to be talking a lot as well, and also feel free to ask us questions. So it's basically we just want to have a chat for the three of us.
that sounds great.
Yeah, but just riffing on that, I really like a few things about your posts. If you're talking about your posts, I like that you always have like a catchphrase initially, and then it's like written very simply, like very very simple phrases. Like each phrase is another paragraph, so very easy to scan and follow. How did you learn it? Like, did you invent it? Yeah, just please tell us how does it all work?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn, we could talk for hours about LinkedIn or social medias. I think LinkedIn is pretty much the only one where I know some stuff right now. I mean, there's a lot to be said. The style, to answer your question on finding this style of writing, I think it's just something that is a progression and something you just evolve on. I love to read very short sentences. My brain is not able to read long paragraph. I'm just getting lost. I think I'm not maybe not smart enough or not articulated enough for this kind of stuff. So I write in a style that I don't think is grammatically correct. I will cut a sentence, put a dot, put a line break, but my brain works really well. Like my brain understands that really well, and yeah, it just became kind of my style of writing. And I think maybe some other people with a similar brain structure as mine, kind of like this approach. And then over time, it just became my style. And sometimes now I would just write something, put former post I did, and ask GPT to to rewrite my post with the right style or fine tune it. So that's how it happened to be what it is. It's interesting that you're spotting that, by the way, because I've talked a lot about LinkedIn with people, and then never had this question. So uh, you have the sense of details. I can tell you guys are definitely
Maybe
not.
that's because we're also trying to learn. Like we feel that for us, like no, we would do products for recruiters. So our audience is naturally on LinkedIn. It's just the best place to be for us, and we're like both of us are trying to learn how to write properly. That like no, how
Nice.
to create content that would be great there.
I think this like, let's not talk about the content for a second, but just like the style, because I think it's not a very unspoken discussion. Uh, about the style, I think it's important to find yours, but I think there is also just, a lot of existing styles you can take from. I remember when I started to be quite active, I was very inspired by a LinkedIn big influencer called Justin Welsh. Now he has this kind of, he was like kind of like the largest, one of the largest influencer on LinkedIn, and then he kind of like built a whole business around it, and now he's trying to promote the solopreneurship, which I think is super cool, which is basically the end goal of a lot of his followers and a lot of people that were buying his classes. And he was giving like a lot of structures on how to write good posts in the early days. There was this very famous approach where you would start with a problem, then you would agitate the problem, then you would tease the solution, everything above the fold, because as LinkedIn is showing a preview and you have to click see more.
Yeah.
And then you kind of like go into the content of like your solution, and you unfold your solution, and you can again talk about the problem and agitate it. I think in the early days, it was just like all my posts were like that, like what's like just trying to, pinch people with a problem that resonates. Which is interesting because Christiana, you and I, we both work at Intercom, and we know how they obsessed they are with being problem first principle. I found it pretty interesting that even on a social media platform, starting with a problem seems to resonate a lot. But I think as the platform evolved and Justin got a lot of following and people started to imitate each other a lot, this kind of structure became too common. And I think I think as humans, we tend to get fatigued very quickly when we see too many times the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And so this kind of post, I think, or this kind of writing, I think, went down eventually over time. And so that's when a lot of people started to pick up their own style of writing. And I think that's kind of where I landed and where a lot of people are landing right now. I think it's important also to keep evolving your writing style. I think even with your audience, or the people that follow you, if you just do the same stuff over and over again, the same carousels with the same pickup and so on, people tend to look away. And so I think it's one of the very important thing on social media in general, trying to just reinvent your format, not even the content. I'm not talking about what you put inside, but just your format. So trying to move away from this style of writing, or this kind of like doing the intro, or the kind of content like you start for, like carousels were very popular 2 years ago. I think then images kind of picked up. In the early days of LinkedIn, it was just like plain posts of text. And recently, I think like images and videos are picking up because LinkedIn is trying to do that. And it also has a lot to do with the algorithm of these platforms. Once you understand how the algorithm works, you understand why the formats have to evolve. Basically, how social media works, it's like a two-sided business. On the one end, you have people producing content. On the other end, you have people consuming it. And they want to promote the content that they think is standing out, like the outlier content. And if all the content is the same, and there is one of this content which is standing out and kind of like getting extra visibility, this is gonna like push down almost all the other contents, because the algorithm assumes that a great content is a great content that a lot of people should see, right? And so that's really the end goal of social media. At least if you treat social media as a way to get visibility, because you can treat it as a way just to express yourself and just as a journal, maybe. That's
Yeah.
the like that's why like the formats I think is super important. So I think
But
keeps
it's
evolving.
so hard to find your style because it has to be relevant to this certain platform. I mean, LinkedIn is not Instagram and is not X, Twitter. And just the general vibe of LinkedIn is so polished and everybody is trying to be the best version of themselves. And you have second thoughts each time you try to be yourself. You're like, oh, isn't it too much? Or
There
so
are
I
so
mean,
many memes about LinkedIn style of talking.
yes, yes, and it's so hard to find like a niche where you can balance like being a professional image and be just human and yourself with your thoughts. So it's so hard to balance. How do you
It is.
approach it?
It is. There is a subreddit actually about a LinkedIn cringe. It's
Yes.
awesome. About
There we go. Yeah.
yeah. I think the balance is hard because you want to tell your story. I think it's important to have like a percentage of your content on LinkedIn which is a bit more personal, so you kind of tell like who you are a bit more, because that's at the end of the day we're just humans and we need to, it's important to attach some emotions to the people we read. So I think having like 10, 20, 30% of your content which is more personal, like something you're going through or even a picture of you, as uncomfortable as it can feel, I think it's very important. But
To that
finding
end, by the way, also sorry to cut
yeah,
through. I
go.
noticed that LinkedIn, like, it really personalizes company pages, and very few people know this. So if you post something from your personal account, it will get way more views than if you post it from a company page.
100%, man. I think that's the biggest shift in B2B marketing of the last 5 years and the upcoming 10 years is that follow people. They don't follow companies anymore. The best examples is Microsoft. Microsoft on LinkedIn gets 10 to 50 likes on their LinkedIn post, and they have
10 to 15
millions.
likes.
Yeah, 10 to
And these
50.
guys are owners of LinkedIn, by the way.
They have millions of followers, man. But if you take Satya Nadella, who is one of the current CEO, he gets thousands of likes. Why?
Hmm.
Because people follow Satya. They don't follow Microsoft, right? And I think that's honestly I think that's the biggest shift in B2B marketing right now happening. And a lot of people are saying that, you know, if one of the person at the company can become the media, whether it's a founder or an employee, it's extremely powerful, right? So going back to your early question of like how's this LinkedIn stuff started and why we're doing it, it started as a journal, just sharing stuff, sharing meetups, ideas, sharing slide decks that I prepared, like Medium articles, because Medium was something at the time. And it turned out into like some early following, and then it's a snowball where you realize that you can actually get good business traffic out of LinkedIn. And for me, it's always been a mix of personal stuff. Like it feels very good. It probably feels better to me to share stuff on LinkedIn than it feels for people to read me, because I can just put stuff out there and they're just out of my head. But then
Yeah.
then once you run a business and your ICP is on LinkedIn, you also realize that you can drive business from it. And so I think it's the hard thing
Do you
about.
see like do you see the real business impact? Do you measure it somehow? Like how much of your audience or whatever, like the traffic to your website comes from LinkedIn?
Yeah, we do. We ask people. It's a declarative question in the onboarding, like how did you learn about us? And we estimate 20% of the revenue of June coming from LinkedIn
Wow.
right now. Yeah,
That's significant.
it is significant. Yeah. So LinkedIn has this thing that works really well in B2B. On average, in B2B, you need 6 to 10, sorry, touch points to convert someone. It's not like, these consumer apps where you have like a good, user-generated content ads on Instagram, and then you have a basic funnel on your website and you convert for $15. That's not really how people buy in B2B. Some products are like that, but if you want to be a CRM or an IT solution like we are, it's a pretty meaty conversation. Like, do we adopt them for the next coming years? Do we switch from
Hmm.
our existing solution? And for that, you need ongoing touch points, right? And the traditional world of touch points in
Mm.
B2B was a webinar, and then, maybe an offline event, and then maybe, a LinkedIn post, and then maybe, a newsletter,
Yeah.
and then maybe you visit the website. This is the old world, right? But if you're connected to someone on social media and you post every day or every week, you're having these touch points, right? You're having this like 6 to 10 touch points in like 2 weeks, maybe. So you've created that, exactly. Plus, you have all the rest. You have the social approval, this kind of logo wall you put on your website. You have it on LinkedIn, right? Because if the like customers of yours comment and say, "Oh yeah, we're super happy with the product," whatever, like that's social approval. If you're connected to the people, you follow someone who's already connected to the people you trust, that's some sort of social approval, right? So suddenly you have the touch points, you have the social approvals, and you have the content, right? Because you produce
Yeah.
content on these platforms, except if you just talk about your life, maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
But you know what I mean?
full-time
Like this is like the
job.
blog. Yeah, it's a full-time job, maybe. It depends on how you approach it. But this is also like running a blog and having people in your
Yeah.
newsletter, right?
Yeah. How
But
much time do you spend on what you personally? How much time do you spend on LinkedIn?
I spend probably like a good day a week now on LinkedIn.
One day. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's 20% of business. It kind of makes
Yeah.
sense, like both ways.
Yeah. How much
Interesting.
time do you guys spend right now?
I don't know. Me, like maybe an hour a day, something like that.
Okay.
Which is also like probably 5 hours a week or more like that.
But
Something
it
like that, yeah.
depends on your writing style. So do you edit your texts a lot? Do you give them time to settle and then you like review them? Yeah.
Yeah. I think I think I try to do less. I think the algorithm is like really promoting outstanding content right now. So I think I used to post one a day. Now I try to post like 3-4 times a week. And then I got exactly to what you said, which is refining and trying to really get to the best ideas and the best content.
Mm.
I think there's two things that I learned. Yeah. There's two things that I learned that maybe could be useful for people listening. First, we did some YouTube last year, and it taught me a lot of things. And the second part is I forgot the second part. I'll just touch on the first part. Uh,
I was
the,
gonna
the
ask about it.
the thing about YouTube that we learned is that people start like the great YouTubers. They don't start from a script or an ID or something like that. They start from the thumbnail. So basically, if you look at Mr. Beast, the way it works is he has a giant Figma file, let's say, with like hundreds of potential thumbnails. So what it means is it's the sketch of the thumbnail you would see in YouTube and the title. That's it. And out of that, they look at it. They call it a T. So basically, it's like a T, and in one side you have the name of the video. On the other side, you have like 3 lines to explain what the video will be about. And on the top of the T bar, you have like like a sketch of the thumbnail, right? And out of this
Mhm.
hundreds of, if not thousands of potential thumbnail and potential ideas, that's how they zoom and pick one that they think people will click on. Because the reality with LinkedIn is, with YouTube is, unless you click a thumbnail, no one is going to even start watching your video. And then it's another game. Like, how do you hook people? How do you keep people from watching? But this is later on. Like, if people don't click, there is nothing that happened later on. And so I think the way I treat right now LinkedIn is with the YouTube approach, which is, if I was to scroll on a feed on LinkedIn and they would be like, thumbnails or like preview post, which one would I stop on? And then you can of course try to make this, thing interesting, basically. And so it's a combination of like the preview text that they show you and the visuals, and you can go really, really deep on that. So I think it's also like just a nice way to not spend any minutes on the content that has no chance to be, to trigger people interest.
That's the hardest. So you always say like the text should be outstanding, authentic, unique. I'm here for shameful questions, for simple questions, and asking advice. So this is my role in this podcast. So what does this mean? So do you assume that everybody has unique thoughts and everybody can write a unique post, which can be like intriguing and engaging?
100%. 100%. Yeah. The things I do with people I'm close to
So
that.
no excuse, Mariam. Basically, you'll have to write unique and authentic posts from tomorrow.
So the one thing I remember now, the second thing I wanted to say, the one thing you can't control in the whole process of creating, content for LinkedIn, for instance, or content in general, is creativity. Creativity is that one thing you can't force. Ideas, good ideas, right? You can force yourself to take 2 hours to refine a blog article or LinkedIn idea or whatever. You can, block the time and do it. But having the great ideas, that is not something you can force. You can't stop and be like, I need a great idea, right? So that part of the process is the part of the process that you need to keep constant and ongoing and kind of on the spot when the idea sparkles. So I think something I would recommend people to do is have a backlog of ideas. Can be for me it's a Apple Note, and whenever you have a good idea in the day, you just drop it. And this is like the backlog you're gonna read again and again and be like, okay, this idea I had last week, it's actually not very interesting, or this idea I thought was like at the bottom turns out to be super cool because I keep thinking about it, right? And then when you're ready, when you have this kind of hour in the
Sorry,
day,
can I actually add to this? Because that's how I try to do it. And for me, what I noticed also, the best ideas come when you pause, like when you stop consuming. So like two types of situations for me: taking a shower, no extra motivation, and then I start like getting ideas. Second, I go on a run, and like sometimes when I run, I don't listen to podcasts, but even like a podcast can spark another idea. So I would very often stop when I'm running just to take a note of an idea for a future post and then keep running again.
these are great moments. Yeah, definitely. These are the best moments, totally. And yeah, I think just like try to write this down and then refine it. And we had a podcast at June, and we had this amazing guy, James, who came on the podcast, and he was working with Steve Jobs for I think 20 years, 15 years
Wow,
maybe.
that's huge.
And they would have a weekly catch up every week, every Wednesdays, with Sir Lord Ive. I don't know how we should call him. And they had this thing at Apple, which is that Ive could keep saying, which is that ideas are ephemeral. And so the way the Apple guys see ideas is like when you think about them or you speak them, they kind of like go in the air and they're like a bubble, which is going to burst. And unless you're able to capture that bubble, it will burst. And so you need to capture that. So in the Apple Notes or whatever. But if you don't, there is no way your brain will remember it. So I think it's super important to have a way to just drop your ideas somewhere. And there's another guy I love, Naval. You probably know that guy, right?
Yeah. Oh wait, hold on a second. Just before we talk about Nadal, with these ideas and creativity, like there was an amazing book by Rick Rubin, which like maybe people thought, well, like the art of like creative thinking. I actually
Hello?
forgot the name of it, but it's somewhere there on my bookshelf. But it basically also speaks about creativity as a very mysterious process in many ways. It's very unpredictable, and I know the universe is channeling ideas. And if you capture this idea, then yeah, you can create something out of it. If you don't, someone else can capture it, because
Yeah.
these signals are there for everyone.
But how
Yeah,
we assume that everybody is full of creative ideas? So I don't have weekly meetings with Steve Jobs, only with Costa every day. And he's interested enough, but I'm not getting full of creativity. And I don't know, sometimes I feel like there is nothing to share. And I know that this is maybe a mistake to think like this, but and when you have no ideas and you know you have to write a post and you are looking at the backlog and okay, are we going to write this primitive 5 signs of getting closer to your promotion or something like post that I hate? But when I'm trying to create something without like being full of this flow, it becomes a very primitive text, and I usually never post it.
yeah. I think that's the truth. I think a lot of the time you have an idea and you start refining it, and it's not that good, or you don't find a good angle or a good way to break it down. I think that's normal, but I think it's a muscle at the end of the day. If you keep doing it, eventually you get better at it and better at it. And I think I'm very, very far from being great at it. It just takes time. The thing that is important to know is like whatever you do in your life, in your day, can actually be a source of idea. Gary Vee, you probably know that
Yeah.
guy. That guy has the concept he calls it sawdust. It says that whatever you do, you're actually sowing, like, cutting like a tree, and it like, create some sawdust, which is basically just like this powder of this material that then you can leave on the ground, or you can actually use for creating content.
Hmm.
And this is where the best ideas come from in terms of content. It's like, we've seen it at Intercom so many times. Like, we're going through like a weird complex problem in the company, and then 2 weeks after, you have Des, one of the founders, is on stage at SaaS Talk, and he's talking about something, and it's actually a problem that Intercom had 2 weeks ago, something like that. So this is, like, I don't know, right now, like, from what you just said right now, there's so many ideas, like struggling to get started on LinkedIn. That is a topic, right? That is a topic that many people will want to read about. And that's exactly what you're like, this is exactly what we're talking now, but you could actually go meta and you could create content on, I struggle so much to create on LinkedIn. Like, why is it so hard? What am I learning? And then all the people that are like you, that are starting and want to, break the ice, will
By the
learn.
way, isn't that like a narrative that a lot of people, and I saw lots of posts on this, but basically says like, I'm struggling, or there is something like catch, and then the hero's journey almost of how person was
Yeah.
able to overcome it and arrive to some conclusion or something.
Correct. There is a tone on LinkedIn which I think is very. I really love LinkedIn, honestly. Like, I think there is this cringe part of it that you want to avoid, but other than that, I think there is like a lot of goodwill.
Congratulations on your excellent achievement and promotion.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, like on X, like there is so much, not hate, because I'm not in these circles where I see the hate, but there is just so much judgment. Like, you post something and you're like, the comments are tough. On LinkedIn, you have like people cheering you. They're the same people. They're humans too, right? Why is it that on LinkedIn you're more mindful? My thesis is that on LinkedIn it's like your real picture, your real name, and your real career. And so if you're a douchebag, everyone knows who you are. Whereas on Twitter, like, people have avatars and kind of like all kind of crazy shit names, and that creates a
Yeah.
lot of consequences on these platforms. But I love LinkedIn. I love that people are, optimistic and have good intent toward other people. You can find it cheesy,
Yeah.
or you can actually find it useful. I find a lot of energy in LinkedIn.
And you mentioned that it takes time and discipline. And do you have some posts you wrote a few years ago, which you don't really like, and now you look back to them and say, "Oh gosh, how I wrote it."
I mean, a lot of the things that you find interesting are not the one that will interest people, and vice
Hmm.
versa. So there's a lot of things I really think are important that I wrote about, but they don't resonate, especially the posts where I don't have legitimacy. People are like, why would Enzo talk about that? Like, we talk about creativity right now, right? I'm not a designer. I haven't, created like a movement in design or something like that. I'm not a thought leader in this space. Like, a lot of people would just hear me and say, like, what is it talking
You're
about?
actually touching on a very important subject, I think. Then what is this credibility? Like, what is it okay for you to write about that people will find credible?
Yeah, so I think that's the thing with LinkedIn. If we keep talking about LinkedIn, the very specifics of LinkedIn is that when you see someone's face and someone's name, if you click on them, what you see is their professional background. This is what people keep forgetting. Like, that's the difference between LinkedIn and any other platforms.
Right.
When you click on someone, you see the jobs they have done. So you tie the content they're producing to what they have done before. And that's why I think on LinkedIn it's so important to find your legitimacy. And your legitimacy, I think, can be very different things, right? But typically, I think if you start and you want people to read what you say, I think starting from your legitimacy is the easiest way on LinkedIn. So for me, it was I studied product management for 7 years. I started to write on product management, right? And people were like, okay, if this guy worked with Kostya at Intercom, maybe he knows something about product management. And so I think I would say that's a great starting point if people are looking to produce content, to start from where people will, give you legitimacy. And then you probably want to Honestly, I think if you can stand out in like one or two topics and kind of like fit in people's mind under one or two topics, I think it's already an amazing achievement, right? So oftentimes you start from your legitimacy, you produce content, people appreciate that you read about that, and then you grow into this box, and eventually you end up in people's mind as the one reference for something. That's something for me is probably like product management early stage, product management pre product market fit. And then you have the next problem, which is a problem I don't have yet, but it's the problem of when you want to evolve and you want to be something different, when you want to like talk about other things, but people have assimilated you to an
Yeah, and
extent.
sort of like burnout even from your previous topic.
Yeah, I think it's more like artists, you know, like you follow a band that you love, they do 2-3 albums in one style, and then one day they're like, you know, screw that, we don't want to, you know, I love the Arctic Monkeys. It's an indie rock band in the early days, super rough, British rock music from like, you know, small town in England, really, really edgy, you know, and then now they're like, I can't listen to their music. They're doing some stuff which I doesn't resonate, but I listened to a few interviews of them and they're like, we wanted to evolve. We wanted to be something else, right? Same with Coldplay. Coldplay in the beginning was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, now, like Coldplay is for me is like impossible to listen to. But if you look at Chris Martin, the lead singer, is like, my dream since I'm a teenager is to fill stadiums, you know, and he couldn't really do that with Coldplay. But now with his more like EDM music, he goes to the US and he can fill like stadiums in like 18 cities in a row, you know. And
Yeah.
that's the hard thing. Like, and he lost, you know, his initial followers, listeners, but he has gained others. And it's very hard because sometimes you don't gain that new markets in a way, and you just like are stuck in between. Like, I went,
I felt this like super strongly, by the way, because I almost transitioned like from being a designer or design
uh-huh.
leader to like a founder of a B2B SaaS, which is about recruitment, like nothing to do with design in some ways.
Yeah.
And I really struggle because a lot of my audience still are designers and maybe expect me to write about design, but that's not what I do as much as I used to.
Yeah, yeah. How do you handle that then? Do you try to please everyone, or do you try to build credibility in the new space, or how do you handle that?
Like honestly, mostly not overthinking this and just trying to follow the waves of what's interesting. So like writing about topics that may be still interesting for me, and sometimes it may be related to design. So like whenever I know some company launches a redesign or something, I would probably be very closely following and looking. Sometimes maybe other things. So trying to be me, basically, however uncomfortable it might be at times.
I think the story of like a designer that, ooh, that's the light is great now. I don't know what to change. I think that's a great story. Like, you know, like how does a designer or former senior designer at a top tech company, you know, become something different, you know? I think it's very exciting. I had this cab driver last week, Uber driver. The guy was telling me about his life. He has 3 businesses on Instagram. So he was a Uber driver, but for like a palace in Paris. So he was basically working with the best palace and, you know, delivering this very premium experience. At the same time, he was just a random Uber driver that I could book. And he was also into martial arts. So he was giving martial art classes.
Oh.
And
Oh.
then he had something else about like philosophy or something like that, like well-being. He was like, you know, he was like, I'm so split between these things. I don't know which of these things I want to do. And I told him like, maybe you're all of it. Maybe that's what makes you special. Maybe instead of having 4 Instagrams, you should have one, and that's who you are. You're this kind of like Uber driver for Palace at night that, you know, gives martial art classes in the morning and like meditation classes in the afternoon. Like, how awesome is that? Really, you know, how
I can
awesome
see
and
like
unique
that.
is.
That's actually also super interesting because I can see like sometimes if you can find actually also a decent intersection between those things that make sense. That's a bit like, for example, in my case again, like in our case, I used to be a designer. That's one part of me. I'm now like recruiter. That's another part of me. As an intersection, I'm a design recruiter that is probably better than, I don't know, just designers as a recruiter, better than just recruiters as a design recruiter. So that there is some meaningful intersection there because people need to hire designers sometimes. But it's not always like this. And like what I find is that very often we still have to squeeze ourselves into those boxes that are expected by everyone else. Like especially when you are a candidate looking for a job, you better call yourself a product manager and fit the most traditional job description, versus telling that you also are interested in martial arts and you're also, I don't know, whatever, like have lots of other things that actually create an amazing personality, but cannot like be easily fit into the expectation.
I have to confess, like from a recruiter's perspective, when I see some extra information on LinkedIn, I don't mean in the posts, but in just profile when people mention that they own a flower studio or something, it's subconsciously it's not a red flag, but something is wrong. So
You
it
want them to
creates
be
some
dedicated,
bias,
yeah.
unfortunately.
Like, yeah, why you're not product managing 12 hours a day
Yes,
or
exactly. What's wrong with
60
you?
hours a week
You
at,
have a
at
family?
yeah.
No.
It depends on the company's culture, I think. Like some companies explicitly say they want to recruit former founders or people with like side hobbies and stuff like that. I know that sales, like a lot of startups I meet, love to hire sales rep that are doing professional sports or almost professional or used to do professional sports because they have a very strong
Mm.
team spirit. Like for instance, in France, rugby is very popular. I have a few friends who told me like former rugby players are like the best. Like really these guys will like move mountains if they need, and they're super friendly people, which is great quality to have as a sales rep. But for you, Costa, I think there is like similarities or overlap maybe on the like designers don't only design screens, right? They design systems, they design things that are fairly complex. I remember some really complex modeling you did at the time back then at Intercom. Like, how different is that from modeling an organization or designing a company organigram and things like that? I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of. I'm sure there would be a lot of best practices from designing design systems and crazy shit like that you did that would actually be applicable to HR. And you could say like you could be that guy who is like bringing design best practices into HR. Maybe that's a bad idea, but maybe that's another maybe some food for thoughts for you.
No, that's 100%. We just were talking yesterday with Mariam that she's also very inspired by, I don't know, great design, things that are like aesthetically pleasing. And that doesn't necessarily mean how they look, but also how they work, how things are organized, how they're, I don't know, what's the word? The word slipped my mind. Anyway. I wanted to use this maybe as an opportunity to segue into company cultures because we spent quite a bit of time on LinkedIn, and maybe like we're going still talk about if you see any other interesting things. But I was curious about like maybe the culture a little bit, and specifically at June. Can you tell us about like what do you think your culture is? How big you are? You're probably fully remote, as far as I understood. So how does that work?
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, we could talk about LinkedIn for hours. Let's move to company culture. We are remote. We started remote by default because it was during COVID. And then I think we embraced it. I think we're a team of 8 people now, full time, more or less with like, people supporting us basically. And I think it worked really well because we're very, engineering driven still at this stage. So that's where, kind of remote doesn't break, I think. But then I think it kind of breaks when you layer more the go-to-market piece.
Mm.
In terms of culture, I think, I mean, there is a lot to be said, but I think the people are they're very senior at June. I think that's what we found to work the best. It's really hard to onboard someone or train someone in a remote setup. So we've always, kind of hired very senior people. And when they were not, we've had our times. There is something that people say, which is in remote, you need to hire people that already have been remote. I don't think that really was applicable to us. We had a bunch of people that, June was the first remote job and they're just doing, a really, really strong work. I think eventually what we found is that you just need people that are very entrepreneurial. Like pretty much everyone at June right now wants to start a company. I mean, everyone actually. There is no like every single person we have recruited wanted to start the company, and I think these people tend to be the the people who push the most, the people with the most autonomy, the people with the most ownership. Yeah, it's been quite fantastic to see the power of of these kind of people. I think something that I changed my mind on when I had these people early on joining June, I was like, I felt a bit guilty. I was like, these people's dreams are to build startups, and now they're going to work, for kind of my startup. But I learned that actually it's a great value prop for a lot of people because you can join an early stage company, which means you have really the excitement and the adventure of it. But at the same time, you're not eating all the crap of being one of the founders. And so there's a lot of people that don't want to work for too late stage company that wants to join early stage, but they don't really want to do their own yet. And like companies like June are just like a perfect in between. And so yeah, I think like I look at our
Oh,
employees,
that's
they're really well
amazing.
paid, I think, on average, and I think it's cool for them.
Yeah, that's cool. I had this experience when I joined an early stage startup where we actually met with Kostya, and I had this ambition to become a founder myself one day, but I was too, I can't even say young, little. And I couldn't embrace this responsibility a few years ago, but it was a chance to work side by side with real founders and to see, to, to actually notice this crap you mentioned, but from a little bit other perspective. And you know that you still will get your salary, so you are fine, but you can learn from others and then become mature enough to start your own business. So it was just essential experience for me.
Yeah, the first experiences are so important. They shape you a lot. You need to
Yeah.
be working with the right people, I think.
Yeah. Can I pick you on this idea of only having people who are like senior and whatever, like entrepreneurial and so on? Because that was my thinking as well for a long time, that you should only hire like and work with people who are independent, self-driven, autonomous, great. But then I noticed also, or just heard recently that sometimes it's actually great to also bring someone who's more junior in their career because they have a very fresh energy, like they can quickly learn on the spot and learn the way you work. And they can, and maybe like also there are also lots of tasks that are very routine and like senior people are like don't really like doing this kind of things. And it maybe is great to have someone who are early in their career to help with that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a balance. I think we have Alberto, one guy who just joined us after college, and
Wow.
he's been amazing. He's been growing so fast. But like I think he's what like really one of a kind. Is an outlier. I think he's been able to. I don't know, like on the first weeks with us, he wasn't really able to manage an agenda, right? Like a good agenda, just because, like, I mean, we all did, right? We all struggled in the beginning to understand how to use that thing, how to not miss meetings, right? So I think the first weeks he was like missing meetings, and he was like, "Oh, I didn't see the meeting." I was like, that's surprising to me, like a bit,
Oh
when you've been
gosh.
working for years with an agenda, you know how not. But honestly, like in the early days, we all missed some meetings, right? And like
I still do sometimes.
and then sometimes we still
Guys,
do, right?
there is
And then
Yeah.
special
like 3 years
place
later,
in hell for people missing meetings.
I mean, we sometimes do, right? But I mean, yeah, and it just grew like really really fast into like something like it's just very very strong. But I think it's hard. One thing about the culture of June, which I think is interesting, touching on what you said, Kostya, Ferruccio, my co-founder, is way younger than me. So I just turned 35. Ferruccio is 28. And when we started June 24, so Ferruccio was 24. And
Um,
Ferruccio brought that thing that I think is I didn't see before, which is how much being smart and great has very little to do with your age.
Wow.
Like,
100%.
yeah. And the same way, there is this kind of like we're putting like these aging people or old people on the side of society. I think the world is doing really much the same with the young people, right? But if you look at these AI companies that right now that are booming, the founders are like 25, they're not 50, you know. So what does it say about, you know, your capacity as an individual, right? So that's why Alberto joined us, and I think that's why we should have more fresh and young and smart people. But you
Yeah.
know, it's a balance, I guess.
And I feel guilty hiring juniors because you have to pay so much attention to them. You have to teach them, guide them, and have these one-on-ones every day if you want to like invest in their growth. So I just don't feel all the time that I have capacity to take so much effort and time to younger people. I still think that the best place for juniors, for graduates, is to go to an enterprise, to the starting position, assistant of assistant, and there they will really learn, because all this corporate guidances, this paid courses and everything. I think it's the best place. In startup, it's much harder, especially when you are remote. I can hardly imagine it, but of course, there are great juniors who can catch it up just on their own.
100%. Yeah,
Mm.
100%. That's what happened with. So I mentioned that for some people, it didn't work out. There was systematically the feedback, like, you guys should. I mean, take my feedback the way you want, but I really think you should work for a larger company for a couple of years, and that's how you're gonna structure yourself too, right?
Yeah.
I think being able to skip that means like you're really, like, you know, smarter than the average. I wasn't that person. I did 7 years for others people. I learned a lot, and yeah, I think for most people, you have to structure yourself. You have to see processes, best practices in larger orgs. You also have less pressure, to be honest, which means you have more headspace to structure yourself, digest the feedback, digest the observe things, and bring that back, and kind of, like, you know, articulate that in a way that makes sense. One thing that I love, Kostya, from our time at Intercom is I remember one of the values they had, which we definitely brought back to June, was kindness. Um, and I remember what Intercom said, and honestly, we stole we stole this one from them.
It's funny that you said in the past tense, because I don't think it's there anymore, but that's not a topic.
You think so? I don't know, man.
I don't know
But
also. Okay, yeah, sorry, I don't know.
maybe. But I remember it was like literally it was one of the when I onboarded at Intercom, it was like literally one of the thing, you know, in the playbooks they give you.
Mm.
And yeah, what they say, and we strongly believe in, is that kind people tend to be more optimistic, and optimistic people tend to achieve bigger things that, you know, pessimistic people might think are not doable. And I think that's one of the value of this company. Like, people are just super, super kind.
Mm. I think they still have positive and optimistic as a value. I just looked at their website, but not kindness,
Not
not
kindness,
necessarily
yeah.
kindness.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, Intercom is changing a lot. I mean, you
Yeah,
know,
everything's changing.
everyone is changing. It's crazy.
Yeah. Let's not cut up on Intercom. How do you work in the remote environment though? So I'm curious, like, do you do anything special to build more of a personal connection, like with Ferruccio, with the other founder, or like with other people at the company? That's a topic that I'm really passionate about. How to help us have a human connection when we only see each other on the screen.
And I wrote
That's
an
a great
amazing
question, man.
post by Enzo about their offsites. And after that, on our another team sync, I said, guys, we need an offsite.
The offsets are great. They're great. Yeah, they're great. They will. I mean, there is the problem when you're early stage is you want to try to avoid too many meetings, because they slow you down. So we are pushing back so much on meetings. We probably have 3 meetings a week, as a like 3 compulsory meetings a week, beside the stand-ups, right, which are 10 minutes every day.
Wait, is it for everyone? Like, I'm assuming you as a founder could have many more meetings, or how many do you
No,
have?
I have a lot of meetings with like customers, but like
Okay,
with
fair enough. Yeah.
company-wide meetings, we only
Right,
have
that's right.
three.
Okay, yeah,
We only have three.
yeah.
And so we have a product weekly, we have a planning, and we have a demo.
Mm.
And so the problem is, like, when you try to save people's time to be productive, you take the risk of like lacking alignment. But at the same time, if you do, meetings all the time, you don't have this productivity time to get things done, right? So it's a very hard balance to find. I think it's like pretty much everything at the startup. It's iterative. You need to find your own pace. For us, what we found out is that one-on-ones are super important. So we've started to do one-on-ones from the day one of June. I do them every 2 weeks. Virtual does them every week, and they're half an hour, and that means we can always talk openly about stuff. We have retros every 2 weeks. So we have 4 meetings basically. Retros also, we did it from day one. A lot of people would tell you that retros are like for larger groups, larger companies. But for me, there are ways to dismantle ticking bombs. Like if you have a very open communication culture and you have retros, nothing is going to be hidden. It's just going to be exposed. And because there is people in the room, people feel more comfortable sharing because they're not face to face with you. So these retros have helped us tremendously. And then the ongoing, product development meetings, rituals, like however you want to do Scrum and so on, like that tend to work really well. This is not enough because eventually you're going to build up a bit of disconnection. And so this is where human face-to-face is very important. We have 5 people in Paris. So we try to meet every week or every 2 weeks.
Oh, that's amazing, actually. That's a
Yeah.
huge advantage. Like, we are so distributed, we barely have a single person like in a city.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So we have this kind of like co-working in Paris where we meet.
Oh,
But the problem when you
amazing.
do that is like you have people, remote and people in Paris, and you can start to build this kind of a bit hybrid culture,
Yeah.
which is very, very risky. And that's where the offsites come in. They're a way for everyone to gather for a week, basically.
How often would you have offsites?
We used to do them every 3 months for the 3 first days of June. Yeah, so 4 times a year.
Very cool.
Yeah, but we had no parents back then, so it was very easy to go like 4 times a week, 4 times a year. 1 week is a month a year. If you have parents, if you have children, like telling your partner that you're not going to be here for 1 month a year is like insane. So now we do them more like 3 times a year, and they're not really 1 week, they're more like 5 days. We iterated a lot on this offsite. We tried a lot of things. Initially, we were going into big houses in the middle of nowhere, and now we try to do them in San Francisco. Yeah.
Big houses in San Francisco.
What do you mean? Sorry.
No, you said big houses in the middle of nowhere, and I'm saying like big houses in San Francisco.
I mean, the house is smaller in San Francisco.
Right.
It's
Okay, yeah.
crazy expensive right now.
Yeah.
But the team likes it. I don't know. Like, I think it's really something also to iterate on and see the culture. I thought the team was more eager to like take a break from big cities, because everyone lives in big cities. And so kind of like these big houses in like Turkey or stuff like that felt almost like holidays / company building. But it turns out that the company is like super into tech, really, really deep. And so if you go to San Francisco and there is like an event every night where you basically meet other tech people, which, for some people feels like work. It's actually what the people in the company loves the most, just like, meet smart people every day.
Yeah.
And it
We
seems
should have our
like,
next one there as well.
yeah,
So it depends on your culture, I guess. It's something you need to test on.
Yeah.
let's elaborate on the culture because it seems like you have very unique, very specific vibe in the team where you value kindness as your like primary principle. How do you manage to select people joining your team? Because when you have like this real values, not just wrote on your career page, but the real ones, it's really hard to check these things on interviews. So how do you approach this?
Yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, we try to ask questions or we'll try to read between the lines for that. So there are ways you can figure it out. We do, of course, background checks. So you can ask these kind of questions. You can understand a bit how the people behave. And then there is only so much you can clarify before recruitment. And then, typically you also have like trial months when people start. We always do a trial week. So we always have people like taking a week of holidays on their job and do a week with us always, and it's a paid
It's a
week.
brilliant practice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
the
It's
best.
underrated.
It's amazing. It's amazing for the person because you're paying the person, and it's usually good money because it's more like freelancing kind of money.
Yeah.
You also have a very clear deal with these people because as soon as you pay the person, if you want to reuse what they have produced, you don't feel guilty, right? You're like, I paid you for like a
Yeah.
week of freelance, basically, if that doesn't work out. And then if it works out, like, you're both sides are so much more confident,
Mhm.
you know? I think at Intercom, we didn't do that, did we? Or we were flying
I
people?
don't remember that. No.
No,
Yeah.
but we were flying people for like a day or two, right? On site.
Yes. For me, actually, that was the first time I was in Dublin. It was for Intercom's offsite. I had never even been to Ireland before that. Yeah, and then you just join the company, and like on day one you start working. And I've heard like these days. Well, anyway, yeah, it's
But I think honestly, like in a startup, what we found is that if you grow and the company is kind of successful in a way, and there is multiple flavors of that, your culture is gonna follow. If things are like really, really hard and it feels like pushing a boulder up a hill, like you just like the culture, like no matter how good you want it to be and how many principles you have and so on, it's gonna be a bit tense, you know. And so I think ultimately, I don't know, you can put as much guidelines as you want or try to be as well intended as you want. Ultimately, your growth, the success of the company will drive a lot of the things forward. So, you know, as much as culture is important and having these rules that you fit well are, I think it's about growing the business. When we started with this company with Ferruccio, we are like, we could do like a lot of different things in our life. The people we are recruiting could do like a lot of different things. So let's make sure that thing is meaningful for us and for them. And that's the promise we do to every employee joining us. We're like, you know, we don't know if like June is gonna be $1 billion company, but what we know is that a couple of years from today, you will look back and you will be like, I worked with the guys at
Mm.
June. You know, it was like freaking awesome.
But it's
that's
cool
fantastic.
while interviewing, keep in mind whether you will survive with this person in a big house in the middle of nowhere. I think it
Uh-huh.
clears up a lot of things.
What have you found? Like, I mean, you guys have so much experience here. What have you
Yeah.
found to be like the one or two, you know, really good ways to you know, set up a company culture or like hire the right people that are not very spoken, you know, things that you don't read every day?
It's a good one. We're still discovering it because we're working with, I mean, from the agency's perspective, we work with so different clients, with just emerging startups, with enterprises, and every client is so different. And we see that there is no like a benchmark culture and approach, even approach to culture. It just matching right people to right places. So there is no general approach, I would say.
Yeah, in terms of hiring to hire like people who work with us, there is one thing that I keep thinking about, and this may be like gonna be a very wrong thing that I'll say right now. But I'm trying to look at the vibe, however like cringe that could be. Like people tell a lot that I know culture fit versus culture add and so on. Like I think at the early stage, culture fit is way more important. So as the company grows, it's great to build a more diverse culture and like have many different people from different backgrounds and so on. When you're like just a bunch of people doing early stage things and everything is like on fire most of the time, it's much simpler when like you are like no like really tightly culturally fit and you feel great with each other. As I said, just I know even looking back at the time, I think that was a great time together.
100%. I mean, I don't know if you remember, man, but you were the one to do my last interview at Intercom.
Like your exit interview.
No, my actually onboarding interview.
Oh,
My
you're on board.
on
When we hired you. Oh, I don't. No,
Yeah.
I don't remember.
And okay, so I'll remind you of that. So the way a lot of these tech companies work is you go on site and you meet a couple of people, and you meet, of course, people you're gonna work with directly with, and some people a bit more indirect. So there is a bit of like check-in from like different horizons. And when you join as a product person, you also meet someone fairly senior on the design side. And Kostya, you were my senior kind of designer meeting, and I mean, we really had a good moment together. I think the vibe was really good, but
Oh,
but I think the the discussion or the things I was saying were a lot less good. Like I remember, uh, you kind of like asked me like how to handle a complex situation with a designer, and I actually shared very openly a very shitty one I had in my previous job. And then I was very upfront with you. I was like, sometimes just like people are just super numb, and you can't convince them, and it's like a nightmare, and you just have to deal with it and so on. And you just drilled on that. You're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And out of like half an hour or 45 minutes, we probably spent like 15 minutes on that very uncomfortable topics for both of us. And I was like, oh fuck, I really missed that interview. And then we talk about Basecamp and Jason Fried because I had just attended the boot camp with him, and I was telling you about it, and you're like, "Oh yes, I love that dude." Whatever. I don't know if you still follow him, and you were like, and
not
then
that
we
much, but yeah.
not as much, and we just had a good vibe, and I think at the time you already had this philosophy.
Wow, like my mind completely just moved it away from the memory. So thank you, super interesting. Yeah, it looks like it did work out in the end, but yeah, I honestly don't remember much. But back to your question of like what are other unspoken things. We tried to do some things consciously to just know ourselves, like to build a little bit more of a human connection. So that could be things like share pictures from your weekend on our channel together, and just discuss what happened in everyone's personal lives. To the extent people feel comfortable sharing. That could be like we do also like quarterly all hands type of things. Like we only do all hands once a quarter, and that's where we bring together like everyone who works on our agency side, which is like actually a collective of product and designers who are like pretty independent, but also people who work on the product side, and they don't overlap as much. So that's like a gathering where the whole everything that's happening under the brand of Haya Haya comes together. And we always finish it like we speak about like normal stuff, whatever, how we're doing, like goals and stuff and progress. But at the end, we always play like a mini game, which is supposed to help ourselves learn a little bit more about each other. And Miriam is laughing because she's usually inventing those games for
Oh
us.
yeah, I love it. I
But they were
have
like
I have
fantastic
one
things.
idea for our next one, so it's gonna be
Oh,
so cool.
amazing, amazing! Yeah, because we have one soon enough. Yeah, like one was when people had to take a picture of your desk from the top. And then we just put them like anonymously on the slide deck, and we were trying to guess whose desk is where, just by looking at pictures and yeah, trying to find those little clues about people that we know. And it was always very funny, and actually, like I really loved those kind of things.
And I loved one of the recent when this hype with ChatGPT when you asked Chat to illustrate your life based on the information they know about. So we shared again anonymously all these pictures, and we tried to guess whose life is more similar to the image. So it was really really fun.
There was there was just the right amount of cringe and fun,
Yeah.
and learning about each other there. So felt great.
I think,
We
yeah. I didn't mention these are for me like the small things you need to test on. I think they're super important at the end of the day. We have a few of them, like also Monday morning, a picture of your weekend. This is
Cool.
super cool.
Oh, you're the
When
first people who are like also do it. I thought we are strange in that sense.
No, we took it from On Deck actually. On Deck,
Really? Ah,
yeah,
okay.
On Deck has created this very strong remote culture, and they have experimented so many things. And we have one of our angel who used to work there. She shared a few stuff. We have team lunch every 2 weeks, and then you get food delivered with the company credit card. We
Wow.
used to have gaming nights once a month, but they're not happening anymore. We would play like online crazy games, and there is a lot. I know, and we have Tuple. Tuple is a software to like basically it's like to ping someone, but like almost like if you were behind them, and just scratch their shoulder. It's not like Slack where you need to write to someone, say like, hey, do you want a huddle? It's like literally, I click on it, it basically pops up and it's like, hey man, I want to get into the room. I want to get into your laptop. Can I?
Wow.
The engineers are using that a lot. It's really really cool.
Yeah. What's the name of it again?
Tuple, Tuple.
Oh, TUP. Oh, I think I've heard but never tried. Interesting. I
Yeah.
should have a look. Yeah.
It's a bit
Wow.
more for engineers because you can do some peer programming and so on, but the entire company has it.
Very, very interesting.
But these are the
Okay.
small stuff you need to always, I think, keep testing and keep introducing, right? Because I think these are at the end of the day, the small things that people influence people's life, right?
Exactly.
But it's so easy to not do them and just do
Yeah.
your meetings and do your work.
I want to take a risk of opening one more topic if we still have a few minutes left, and that's AI. We just mentioned ChatGPT for the first time in this podcast a few minutes ago,
It's our
and this is
record, I
strange because,
think.
our previous episodes were much heavier actually on AI. I think when I asked you, and so like a few days ago, when I asked what topics are interesting to you, you said something like AI paradox. What works, what doesn't, and why. So can you actually tell a little bit about this? What paradox are you seeing? What's there?
Yeah, I should have been mindful when I say that word to you because I don't know what I mean exactly, but yeah, I think we're just living an insanely exciting age in tech, mostly driven by AI, and I think what I call the paradox and what I think is the most exciting is like how many new opportunities are opening up thanks to AI and kind of how the models are evolving and what they enable us to do versus how crazy like how many people are going to fail basically because they're starting from AI maybe in a way. And I think that's the thing which is exciting. I think GPT was a revolution when it came out. It was probably the first mass democratization use case for AI. I think it's fantastic. Like my parents are using ChatGPT. What the heck, which is
Yeah.
awesome. I think then a lot of us try to build some products or features on AI that's on GPT, like 3, 4, that had a lot of limitation. I think there was the surge of like what I call AI assistant, which I think is like application like Cursor, like the programming AI software where you start to type some code and basically the AI assists you and
We
feels.
haven't spoke about vibe coding yet, but that's save it for another day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
vibe coding. Yeah, it's funny. Like I heard the word for the first time yesterday evening because I met a guy who was working on the security software, and he was saying that the market is booming because of vibe coding, where people are writing code but not implementing security, basically. So it's
Yeah.
the
Well,
market
for
is growing.
people, like, actually, I'll just add a little, like, explanation for people who don't know yet, and that becomes, like, a real buzzword these days. I think it was coined by, Andrei Karpathy, like an ex, OpenAI co-founder and Tesla AI director, what I actually don't like, I always forget titles and details. But he said it's about like actually writing code, only using prompts, not even reading the code. So you ask an AI tool to write a code for you, then you try to launch it. If it doesn't work and there's some like whatever bug reports, exceptions, you just send it back to the model without even explaining. It tries to fix it. So you're only right now here seeing stuff, copy and
You are.
pasting stuff, and it mostly works. And like what's most surprising is that you can actually build an app that's mostly works like this, like a simple app, of course.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look at companies like Lovable. They've grown, I
Yeah.
think, to 28 mil,
Yeah,
17 mil, or something like that in 6 months. It's
yeah.
it's it's more than a trend. Of course, these companies struggle with retention. It's no surprise or no secret. But I think there is a movement like the same way there was a massive movement on like no code website with Webflow and WordPress.
A
The
framer.
same
Yeah.
the same is happening with like no code or kind of like vibe coding applications, and I think
Well, yeah.
that's very very exciting. So yeah, I mean, I think that's the paradox. Like that's a great paradox. I don't think it's a new. I think like I know a lot of people that had WordPress website that got hacked because WordPress was quite weak in some places. So it will create some paradox, of course, on like the quality or the vulnerability. But I think overall, I think what I found the most interesting is that as the model are evolving right now very, very fast, so are the possibilities, right? Probably the best thing you could do a couple of years ago with AI was a chat, right? Because the model were great for, replying or scrapping information or multiple website and summarizing it. I think this is what AI was very strong at the beginning, like summarizing, right? And then AI became better at like assisting you, I think, like completing stuff. But AI wouldn't do the things for you, right? OpenAI, ChatGPT was like on the internet, getting information and giving it back to you. And then it was assisting you, but it wasn't doing things for you. And now we're getting into a world where AI is becoming so good that it can do things. So now we're opening a new door with AI agents, with agentic AI, something we're also super excited about at June, and we're about to release something about it. Stay tuned. It's really, really cool. But it's like, how many, you know, how many waves are we gonna have like that? And what is it exactly that these new AI technologies will enable? And I think the paradox is that there is a lot of noise. There is just a lot of random stuff. So if you look at going back to LinkedIn, some of the posts that I've done that have been the most viral, a lot of them are kind of soft mocking AI, because there are just lots of like, existing enterprises that add an AI to their product and it's totally useless, right? Or there's lots of startups that start with the solution and struggle with finding a problem to that solution, etc., etc.
It just reminds of a Gartner hype cycle also. Like whenever technology emerges, sometimes there's like inflated expectations and people believe, oh, that's the best next thing. And then there's like a trough of disillusionment, as they call it. And then slowly it's like real adoption and real use cases and like normal applications, I'd say.
Exactly. Except the problem with AI is that you don't have the time to go in the valley. You just go, and when the valley is gonna hit, like there is already another wave. It's like the S curve, like boom, boom,
All
boom,
right. Yes.
keep
Yeah,
going up.
exactly.
And
Exactly.
it's the same, roughly the same underlying technology. Well, we'll see. And now it's MCPs. Like MCPs are like, people are going crazy with MCPs, right? So what's next? Let's see. I wonder if this is the last fight. Some people say it's the last fight. It's like like the Lord of the Rings, the last
Yeah.
battle in the last movie. That's what people say. Like this is why the stakes are so high. It's because it might be the the last one.
Do
I
you
don't
think
believe
there's actually
so.
going to be any work for people to do in 10 years' time?
The short answer is yes, but I think it's gonna be a more fundamental change than most people think. Like already at June, I think an embarrassing amount, a percentage of the code that we do is written by Cursor right now. And I'm happy to admit
Well,
it because we're super open about everything we do, but it's like I wouldn't be surprised if it's like 20 to 30% of our code right now being written by
you know what?
Cursor.
There was a podcast about vibe coding from YC, I think like a few days ago, and they said in the recent batch of YC startups, it's more like 90% of the code is
Wow.
generated.
I'm not surprised. I'm not
Yeah,
surprised. I I'm not surprised, guys. And I mean, you see it with GPT. Like, how you gonna treat that podcast? You're gonna take the audio, you're gonna extract it, you're gonna turn it into a transcript, and then you're gonna work with an AI at some point to clear the voice or to figure out the best moment to then have a video snippet, maybe for social media. Like, AI is gonna be involved. I don't know how you prepare the discussion. Maybe you chatted with GPT, but it's everywhere. And I think with agents coming in, I think the problems with AI so far was that it was just these very um, slow two-way things. Like you ask AI something, it does it for you. I think what's about to happen is really AI is going to be handling the workflows we do every day. So if you think about your workflows of like you wake up, you open Gmail, you read an email, out of an information you got, you went into another piece of software. to look for something, maybe to copy paste something, all of that is going to be taken over in the next 5 years by AI. Like this kind of, multi-tabbing / pinpointing actions is really about to happen. So, what's left for humans, right? What are we going to do left, right?
True.
I think it's going to be the one thing, man, and I will push that because I think it's like the most dystopian shit. I love it. Is if you think about all the blocks we discuss and you assemble it, then you end up in a very crazy vision of like the product development world. And I don't think it's that crazy. So I'll tell you the story. The story is you have an idea of a great company to build, and it's done by AI. Basically, there is like an AI asking another AI, like, what's a great business opportunity? The other AI replies with the idea. Then that idea goes into another AI, which is going to start building the product, like Lovable, right? Creates the app, deploys it, it's live. In theory, this would take weeks or months. It just took like maybe a couple of minutes, maybe seconds. Then this product needs to be used by people to give you feedback, right?
So
Well, you don't.
that will take some time
Yeah, that can be
initially.
initially that can be shrunk, in my opinion. Like you ask
Um,
another AI to behave like as
Oh,
I don't know, customer success teams at B2B SaaS, which is our persona right now. And you ask that AI to give feedback on the product, on the things they like or they don't like. So now you have a AI that imitates customers that tell the AI that builds the product what to do next. Or maybe you go through like a product team, right? So AI gives the feedback to a AI product manager that then defines the specs, and then you have
and you
AI
have like
developer
iteration cycles that will take years sometimes for real product. Again, like in minutes.
in seconds. Like you have 20 years of development of a product, of feedback loops between customers, product teams, engineers, strategy people, ops, business, whatever. Everything shrunk into maybe 10 minutes. Like like a lifelong existence, like what you and I would take half of our life, maybe,
Yeah.
shrunk into a minute, into a couple of minutes. And that, man, is not too crazy to think about. It's not too crazy. It's something
We can see it. Yeah.
we can see it.
Yeah.
We can.
It's not here yet, but it can be visible. Yeah,
we
I
see
agree.
the
So
silhouette already.
we see the silhouette. Yeah. So imagine like your VC fund. I don't know. You invest instead of investing into entrepreneurs, you have like, I don't know, 10 millions. You're gonna do like 10 bets at 1 million, and you're gonna spin overnight on servers like 10 companies or 10 products. You can also even AI eyes the go to market potentially,
Uh,
So, you know,
Oh, yeah.
let's see what happens,
mm.
guys. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I
No, I
really
started
jumped
thinking like
here.
in that reality, if all of this is true, who is then using this product? So, like, in order to build a business, you still have to find, I don't know, people or companies that are actually using the product, getting value out of it, and paying you like in exchange of this value. But if it's all done so quickly, like, is it even useful for anyone? I'm kind of like, what's remaining there? Like, who's going to be using this product? So I think it's almost like,
Do you think the value people pay for is tied to the pain that a company has to go through to build these products?
not always, of course.
Yeah, I agree with that. So I would say, I mean, besides these AI customers, you probably need real customers.
Yeah. But that's like okay, yeah, that's interesting. At least we're not there yet. So maybe we'll have whatever, how many, like 3 years, 5 years to still do something
I think the
before that
opportunities
happens.
are going to move elsewhere. I think if that's the case, if like
Mm,
you can spin for 1 million or I don't know, even like a couple of $1,000, a product that would take years of iteration into maybe an hour, if that becomes the norm, then the value will be somewhere else. Like if
Mhm.
right,
everyone can do that, then how do you
exactly.
create the best products, right? And maybe there will be like a movement anti-AI. Maybe actually the companies that are going to succeed are the ones that don't do AI shit. Maybe it's like there will be a craft and you will have to do things yourself and you will have to record videos of like real humans writing real code, and
Yeah.
that's why people are going to buy you
Yeah.
That's
because you are
funny.
like, you know. made in Europe or something like that, or there will be other stuff. The value will just move to somewhere else. And until AI is at AGI level, you will still need human to come up with these business ideas, business concept, business positioning, things like
Yeah.
that.
But even then, like maybe it won't be commercially viable for humans to do it, whatever commercial things. There's still the whole like arts territory, like where people can express themselves, and there's still going to be value in people creating something together. Maybe just purely for the sake of art and creativity, and less about. So it's like Burning Man, but for the entire Earth.
Oh.
Now we went far. Yes. I think there will be, I mean, art will always exist. There will always be people thinking differently from the mainstream system and trying to.
And human experiences, and I don't know, like interpersonal experiences.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically, I actually like this idea of Burning Man. I just like haven't thought like about it before this podcast, but now the
Oh,
more I
it's really
think about it,
good. Save it.
yeah, the more I like it.
But it's the underlying question, right? You started, your question was like, what's the AI paradox? And we went pretty far, and now it's a bit trippy. But that's ultimately the real underlying question here. Like, not what's going to be the next SaaS doing 10 million AR in like 2 weeks, Like, ultimately, the real question is that, I think. And this is, honestly, I think this is what's happening just in front of our eyes right now. And it's like, what a unique moment in history to be working in tech. Like, I think it's we're living through a crazy time.
Sure, yeah. People say the best time to run startups is now, because it's really like entire new set of waves coming, like, and each is more exciting.
Yeah, and next week there is a launch from June on that. It's not AGI, but it's cool.
Great.
And before we wrap up, I want to ask one very important last question. How do French-speaking people really pronounce ChatGPT?
French people?
French-speaking people.
Oh, it's horrible. It's
The shot there is like
I mean, there is Le Chat, which is Le Chat is the French version. It's from Mistral, which is one of the competitor, and honestly, the guys are killing it there. So, like, really great product. It's way faster than GPT, like so much faster. But
no.
Le Chat means the cat in France.
Yeah.
And
And is it GPT or
yeah, and in France is Chat GPT, and GPT is horrible because it also means like I farted basically.
What a note to end the podcast on.
If you
Merci.
actually take just that sentence, when I say I farted, and you just put that, I think you just have the good moment.
Yeah. That will be like in the cover. Back to what you said, like you designed the YouTube cover to be the most catchy, so we'll probably try to reverse engineer it and put something about farts on the cover to at least generate some views.
The weight, like my face like that with like a bubble that says I farted. I'm sure people would love to see that.
Yeah. All right, Enzo, thank you so much for joining us this morning. It was a
Yeah.
great pleasure talking to you.
Thanks for having
Merci,
me, guys.
merci beaucoup.
Merci beaucoup. You speak French? Merci
Ah oui.
beaucoup de m'avoir eu. Thanks a lot for having me.